1938. I was calling in at Cannington to see Gurney Manor, a building that was begun long before they started making tiles at Bridgewater, and now being restored by the Landmark Trust.
Hello.
Hello.
This is a very complicated building. So when was it built?
The earliest bits of wall we found go back really a long way, back to about 12th century, 13th century, that sort of time. But the hall, as it exists in ground plan anyway now, is more like 14th century and sort of early 15th century. The house, as we recognise it, built round a courtyard, was built in about 1480 by a rich merchant from Bridgewater, William Doddersham, who built most of what we see now and used first-class materials, first-class workmen, and really did a terrific job and built this very charming house.
Which is why it's presumably stood for so long. But even so, it's a bit of a shambles, isn't it?
It is when you see it now, but you have to remember that when we first came here, it was divided up into 9 different flats. So, quite a lot has happened. It hasn't been lived in as a manor house for, well, nearly 400 years.
So when you set about restoring a thing like this, what policy do you adopt?
Well, we spent the first year or two really just looking at what we had, just peering behind walls and above ceilings and so on, trying to do it, be as careful and really make sure that we knew what we were doing before we started actually working. And we're doing it with our own team of men, working over a long period of time, so that we really have time to think about everything.
And at the end of it all, what happens to it then?
Well then, it will have been returned to being one unit, but 3/4 of it will be occupied as one unit by people staying in it for holidays. People will be able to rent it for a holiday of a week or 2 weeks.
A bit ambitious, you might think. I'd have said the same about this, but they've done it. Stagursey Castle Gate Tower has been restored to its former glories. Once it was pretty well a complete shambles. Now holidaymakers can live for a week in the sort of place you normally only get to visit for half an hour. Having visited the Mendips on my travels, it seemed only fair to give the Quantocks a go.